In June of 2023, Flight Rising launched an achievement system. There are achievements for things like breeding dragons, fighting in the Coliseum, and playing minigames. It only makes sense that some of those achievements would have to do with what dragons love best, hoarding gold. Now, I'm not a dragon, I'm a human, and I assume you're human too. Thus, today I'm going to try and demystify some methods I've found to surmount these achievements. If you're not familiar with Flight Rising, it's a browser-based dragon game. In its own words, it is a social web-based activity site featuring dragon breeding, adventuring, combat, and collecting. It puts you in control of your own clan of dragons, allowing you to control their mating habits, specialize their abilities and traits, and adorn them thousands of different ways with a variety of apparel. But the real ones know that this game is first and foremost an economic adventure game. If Neopets was a cartoony interface slapped on an economy simulation, Flight Rising is its cooler, younger sibling. You can sell your dragons for treasure, sell your stuff for treasure, brew new stuff to sell for treasure, play games to accumulate treasure, live out your own smog fantasy and sit on a big old pile of treasure and gems. As of recording, I have 984 achievement points. As a quick aside, you might see different numbers in my footage throughout the video. That's because this is an ever-moving number for me. So as of recording the audio, I have 984 achievement points. Each achievement nets points, as few as 1 or as many as 5 points. There are also achievement tokens that a user accumulates with each achievement. They can be redeemed in a special shop, kind of like the Chuck E. Cheese ticket exchange counter. I don't have much of an opinion of this shop and don't really care for the tokens. This video is going to focus on the achievement points and tackling a specific series of achievements. The I Love Gooooold achievement series rewards users starting at generating 100,000 treasure over the lifetime of an account. The crowning jewel of the series is for creating 100 million treasure. This achievement is worth 5 achievement points, 4 gems, 20 tokens, and also 5,000 treasure. Because, you deserve an extra 5,000 for earning 100 million. At those 5 achievement points, this is tied for the most points an achievement can award. Besides the I Love Gooooold top achievement, the only other achievement that nets 5 points is What Does She Do With All This Stuff?, which rewards users for completing 2,500 trades at Crim's collection cart. Crim's collection cart is a storefront in the trading post where the merchant, Crim, presents 5 offers per hour. Crim offers treasure in exchange for items. You can only see one offer at a time and must accept or decline the trade in order to see the next offer. The achievement page for this task includes this analysis by user Spikenard. Crim offers 5 trades per hour. If you accept all 5 every hour, never missing one, it would take 20 days and 20 hours to complete this achievement. I'm just now starting to take this achievement seriously in July 2026, and as of writing the script, had completed 78% of the required trades. Another quick aside here on the achievement pages, if you are struggling with an achievement and you want to get more information, I strongly recommend clicking on the achievement in the achievement center to go to the achievement page for that particular achievement. If the achievement is part of a series, you may wish to look around at other achievements in that series because there may be conversation on a separate member of the series that you're not working for. For instance, a lot of the conversation around the I Love Gooooold achievement are in the ultimate achievement, the completion of the series, that one's page. To get a scale on how much an achievement point typically is, things like hatching 250 ancient or modern dragons are worth 1 achievement point. Hatching your first dragon with a checkers primary gene nets a singular achievement point. Completing 5 exchanges with a merchant named Drip also nets a singular achievement point. Comparably challenging or time-consuming achievements include breeding 3,000 modern or ancient dragons. The average nest size on Flight Rising is about 3 eggs, but can be as small as 1 egg or as large as 5 egg. With a maximum of 5 nests per user and 5 incubation days, it could take roughly 1,000 nests over 1,000 days to complete this achievement. The third most daunting achievement compared to the I Love Gooooold Apex would be the Fairgrounds Fortune achievement, which requires the user to earn 20 million treasure from Fairground games. Fairground games are the on-site minigames like matching, bejeweled, mahjong, and others. There is a daily cap of 75,000 treasure that can be earned from the fairgrounds each day. This means that if a person hit this maximum earning for consecutive days, it would take 267 days to earn the achievement. Extrapolating out from the Fairgrounds Fortune achievement, all you have to do is string together 5 of those 267 consecutive days of 75,000 treasure to max out the I Love Gooooold achievement. That would only be a fresh and fun 3.6 years of playing Flight Rising every day. To me, that sounds miserable. Even though I like playing arbitrage and mahjong, I don't like them enough to make them a part-time job. I still haven't completed the Fairgrounds Fortune achievement because marathoning it seems like a great way to make Flight Rising less fun. I'm currently at 66%, which means it would take somewhere around 91 days of consecutive grinding to settle this achievement. If I'm not going to do 91 consecutive days to score 3 achievement points, I'm definitely not going to recommend that you do 3.6 years to get 5 points and 100 million treasure. No, I have something much better in mind. I took from June 2023 to September 2024 to hit 100 million treasure. That might not seem like an impressive timeline, but I made 22 million treasure in the final 6 weeks. I don't know about you, but I find that scale of time to be preferable than literal years. Let's dive into that timeline and then what didn't and did work in my attempt to become certifiably filthy dragon rich. The modern achievement system launched on June 8, 2023. If you had already accomplished a task associated with an achievement, you could immediately redeem that achievement. Since I started playing Flight Rising nearly a decade earlier, on September 3, 2013, I had completed many achievements at the system's launch. This allowed me to immediately claim all of the I Love Gooooold achievements besides the Apex goal. The achievements record not the completion date, but instead the redemption date. I didn't access the system until June 10th, which is when I redeemed my already completed achievements. This means I had earned at least 50 million treasure before the June 10th redemption date. I don't have any record of how far along I was on the 100 million treasure goal on June 10th. It would have been at least 50% since I had already cleared the 50 million tier. The breeding achievements stack like this too. When you reach 100% of having bred 250 ancient dragons, the achievement for breeding 500 ancient dragons will register at 50%. I began recording my progress in October 2023 at 68 million treasure. I wasn't focusing on this goal, but recognized that it could be useful to document my progress. I spoke briefly about long-term achievements in my May 2024 video about how I approach playing Flight Rising. My concept at the time was that the 100 million treasure goal relied on systems that were boring and made the game not fun. That perspective paints why it took 10 months from October 2023 to August 2024 to go from 68 to 78 million treasure. One convenient thing about this achievement is that it's in easily converted numbers. 100% is 100 million treasure, so 78 million on August 8th, 2024 is 78% completed. Around this point is when things heated up. 16 days later, on August 24th, I had reached 88 million. Another 5 days, and I had added 2 million treasure. 14 days later, on September 12th, I had reached 95 million treasure. I completed the achievement by earning another 5 million treasure by September 21st, 2024. According to the discussion on the achievement page, the total treasure earned number in the user stats database reflects the same number that is tracked in the achievement. In the years since accomplishing this goal, I stopped employing the techniques I used to generate treasure at scale. While I find making treasure fun, the grind I learned to employ isn't. Also, I prefer to make treasure following methods that aren't captured by this achievement's logic. To understand what that means, we need to talk about my journey. I had 2 distinct phases of addressing this achievement. The first phase was me trying to gain an edge, doing my regular activities, and using Hoard sell. The second phase started when I discovered something that worked fast alongside grind sprints. Let me walk you through that first phase because I think this is where most users get stuck. There are several methods of making treasure that count for this achievement. If you could toss treasure from one account to another through the auction house or crossroads, this wouldn't even be a challenge. That's why not all methods of gaining currency count for this goal. Here are the methods that count: playing games in the fairgrounds, hoard selling items, opening chests, bonding with familiars, redeeming achievements and pursuits, well-fed streak bonus, and Tomo's trivia tablet. Here are the methods that do not count: exalting dragons, selling items in the auction house, currency gained from crossroads. The exalting dragons thing was news to me while researching this video. Flight Rising users Distirally and Kasail investigated this point. Kasail monitored their total treasure earned before and after they expired from the Dragon Restoration Center. After you exalt a dragon, which is remove them from gameplay, dragons are held in a purgatory limbo called the Dragon Restoration Center, where you can recall them for up to 45 days. That is, return them back to gameplay. Recalling a dragon has a treasure cost based on their level at the time of exaltation. Anyways, Kasail exalted some dragons, checked the amount earned, waited for them to leave Dragon Restoration, and then checked the amount earned again. Exalting dragons did not contribute to the amount of treasure they had earned. This was news to me, hence why I called it out here. I would say that we can categorize the methods that do count as incidental or intentional. The incidental methods are ways of accruing treasure that happen when you do activities that happen to record currency, but also have other gameplay implications. The intentional methods are the ones where the explicit gain is treasure. Fairground games are a type of intentional method. You're playing the game to make treasure. Some have better payouts than others and will help you reach your daily 75,000 treasure limit. From what I understand, playing Glimmer and Gloon on its highest difficulty is the fastest way to reach the daily limit. As an aside, I would like to take this opportunity to discuss higher or lower. Higher or lower is a guessing game where you guess whether the face-down card is higher or lower than the revealed card. Neopets has a similar game called Tyrannu Ivavu that has a reward for completing a long streak in the game. When I pursued this goal on Neopets, I developed a card counting Google sheet to keep track of what cards had been revealed in a session. I used this same sheet against higher or lower and found that in a session where you turned over 25 cards, you could see the same card more than 4 times. In a standard card deck, there's only 4 of each card. There are 4 houses, and each card occurs once in that house. Higher or lower's deck does not have houses, only numbers ranging from 1 to 13. Further research on the forums leads me to believe that the cards are pulled at random. There are 13 cards, and if the card on the left is under 7, you should guess higher. If the number is above 7, you should guess lower. 7, however, can go either way. I ran some trials where I intentionally selected my guess and recorded how much I made compared to mashing one button, regardless of the card. Intentionally selecting higher or lower netted about 1,131 treasure per game session, while mashing came in around 875 treasure per session. I saved about 30 seconds by button mashing, so even though it nets less currency, I've decided to go with this method. You can play 25 guesses of higher or lower every hour, and the treasure generated from this game counts towards the Fairgrounds achievement, but does not contribute to the daily 75,000 treasure cap for Fairgrounds games. This is all just back of the napkin math, but if I managed 100 guesses a day from just mashing the button, that would put me at about 3,500 treasure a day. 1% of the Fairgrounds achievement is about 200,000 treasure. You would have to do 100 guesses a day for 57 days to accrue 1%. Since we're now talking about racking up 100 million treasure, 1% of that is 1 million treasure. You need 100 guesses a day for 285 days to make a 1% dent into the achievement. That's not a huge gain. You should not rush to the browser every hour to try your hand at higher or lower to achieve either the 100 million treasure goal or the Fairgrounds goal. But if you are already there, I don't think it hurts to button mash through this game. For a while, I was convinced that I would get my edge on this achievement by playing Fairgrounds games and selling items from my Hoard page. This is referred to as Hoard selling. If you've ever been in a fix and needed treasure quickly, you may have experimented with selling items directly from the Hoard. Each sellable item has their price listed in the dialog box that opens when you hover over the item. Under the description, in the bottom left of the box, there should be a number. That number tells you how much this item sells for in the Hoard. The opportunity to arbitrage comes from learning which items may sell for less on the auction house than what they sell in the Hoard. Then you buy from the auction house and sell in the Hoard for a profit. I maintained a Google sheet with a list of familiars that were frequently sold for less on the auction house than they Hoard sell. An example would be the grouse basilisk, which Hoard sells for 1650 treasure. You would only need to sell 606 of the grouse basilisk to move the needle on the achievement by 1%. I don't recommend this method. It requires a lot of active effort for a small return at a time. I would rather find big methods that pay a lot so I can get the darn thing done faster. Bonding with familiars is a great example of the incidental method. When you bond with a familiar, you get a small amount of currency and the loyalty level with that familiar increases. The amount of currency gained ranges between 50 treasure for awakened familiars and 15 treasure for wary familiars. I consider this to be incidental because the goal with familiar bonding should be, first of all, attaining awakened status, and second, getting chests. You wouldn't want to rely on bonding with familiars as a main method to get 100 million treasure. It would take forever. Let's say you had all 1,415 familiars that currently exist on the website as of writing the script. Every day you rotate between bonding with all of them, and they're all awakened, so each click nets 50 treasure. It would take over 1,400 days to reach this goal, nearly 4 years. No plan to reach 100 million treasure should rely on this method. But this is a good daily habit that I think you should work into your routine on some scale. I've mentioned this previously, but there is a rapid method to bond with familiars. There are accessibility hotkeys that allow users to complete actions with limited wrist strain. First, you navigate to a dragon page with a familiar. You select Bond, and the dialog box will appear with your rewards. Instead of clicking on anything in this dialog box, you now select the right arrow key on your keyboard to move to the next dragon. Your mouse should be hovered over the Bond button, so select it and the next dialog box will appear. You can repeat this to bond quickly with all of the familiars attached to dragons in your lair. Besides furthering the relationship with the familiars and getting pocket change, each milestone rewards a chest. At first, a rusted treasure chest, then an iron treasure chest, and finally a gilded decorative chest. My refined attempt focuses on accumulating, opening, and then selling the contents of chests. At some point between May and August 2024, I opened a chest and realized that it rewarded more treasure than I had previously considered. Remember, at this point, I'd tried getting an edge on the achievement by buying familiars from the auction house and Hoard selling them. I recall recognizing that I was fine taking a loss in some instances if it was a small margin. Let's take the grouse basilisk as an example. It Hoard sells for 1650 treasure. If I'm going through my list of familiars that sell from the Hoard for high prices, search grouse basilisk, and find a listing at 1700 treasure, I might be willing to buy. At a certain point, I was willing to lose 50 treasure to add 1650 treasure to the accumulation total. I started thinking of it as how much I was willing to spend to accomplish this goal. This reframe is essential to understand the method. Otherwise, you'll expect that if I made 100 million treasure, I ought to have 100 million treasure. I don't have 100 million treasure to my name, but I have made 100 million treasure. After discovering I was willing to take a small loss on familiars, I became more willing to see what other similar losses I can take in other avenues. Opening chests revealed itself to be a possibly lucrative way to generate treasure. Up to this point, I only got chests by bonding with familiars. Now I started trialing and comparing the outputs of different chests and their prices on the auction house. For this video, I opened a rusted treasure chest, iron treasure chest, and gilded decorative chest to compare their contents. The contents for chests will be random within a standard range. These 3 openings are to provide an example of possible outcomes. The rusted treasure chest sells for either 2 gems or 1700 treasure. The iron treasure chest at the time of recording sells for either 8 gems or 8,350 treasure. The gilded decorative chest sells for 28 gems or 35,000 treasure. I found that the real edge came from opening chests in mass, using those proceeds to purchase more chests, and then listing the items on the auction house. Even though the currency gained from sales on the auction house doesn't contribute to the achievement's treasure goal, you can then take those proceeds and buy more chests. This is how I made 22 million treasure in 44 days. I'm going to demonstrate just a sample of how this technique works. Step 1, you buy iron treasure chests. Step 2, you open the chests. The treasure generated from opening these chests is what counts towards the achievement. Step 3, you buy more chests with the proceeds generated. Step 4, you list all of the items received from the chests on the auction house. Step 5, you take all of the sales proceeds from the auction house and buy more chests. In the first couple of days after opening these chests and listing their contents on the auction house, I made around 500,000 treasure. I took those proceeds to the auction house, and the cost price of the iron treasure chests had spiked, so I got 40 iron chests for 400,000 treasure. This process hangs on the crux of making a lot of auction house listings. If you follow my guidance and list every single item from the chests, many of these things won't sell in their first 7 days. Even before you get there, the process of listing items can be daunting and boring. This is why I don't have 100 million treasure. Even though this process nets a profit, it's not exhilarating. There is a hotkey process similar to bonding with familiars for relisting items. At the end of a listing's lifespan, which can be a range of options, but I always select 7 days, the listing will expire. There is an expired listing tab in the auction house activity ledger, and you'll get a notice that this has happened. You will select the relist button for the first item, then without moving your mouse, press enter on your keyboard. Relisting will be selected and your mouse will now be hovering over the next item. You can now select and use enter again and do this to rapidly go through all of the items. To maximize impact, you can first ensure that you have 50 items per page. You can also use F5 on your keyboard to refresh after you've relisted a handful of items to ensure that 50 are listed on your page. I find this to be helpful when I have more than 100 listings. While I was going through this process, I had over 2,000 auction house listings. I would log on, collect my auction house earnings, go to the auction house, and buy iron chests. There were a few times that I bought out all of the iron chests listed. Speaking of which, while working on this video, the price of iron treasure chests fluctuated. This is bound to happen, especially if other people find the auction house valuation to be less than what the contents are worth. I recommend you set a limit for what you are and aren't willing to spend per chest. I'm now going to make an argument against hoard selling the chest items. Undoubtedly, you will get items that sell in the auction house for about as much treasure as they're worth. Or there aren't any of that item on the auction house, so now you don't know how to price it. Whatever it is, you will be tempted to hoard sell. Please hear this desperate plea. People trying to complete the Crim's collection cart achievement may be willing to pay well above market price to get that item to trade to Crim at a loss. I'm trying to get Crim all these things that they want, but often the items are not on the auction house. Please, I'd be willing to take a loss to finish this achievement. Part of the reason I'm making this video is to try and convince you to do this method so we can flood the auction house with Crim items. I'm serious, the more people trying to complete these 2 achievements concurrently with this method, the better. But I get it, sometimes it's more advantageous to hoard sell items. One quick way to surmise whether or not the item will have any demand is to review their listing in your hoard. Items that are ingredients for recipes or are required to unlock den slots have colored bars at the bottom of their visualization. You can filter your hoard items that are not used in any features. These items may be items you choose to hoard sell. These days, I'm spending a lot of treasure trying to complete the Crim's collection cart and Swip Swap stand achievements. My goal is to get 1,000 achievement points in the next couple of months. I'm documenting my progress. I thought that looking back at what I did for the treasure achievements could be helpful for other people angling to knock these out. One final note on the auction house. I've mentioned that treasure earned from the auction house doesn't contribute to the achievement tally, but I'm saying it again because it's worth repeating. If you only want to focus on listing the items that net the most currency without memorizing any items, here's my advice. Apparel, familiars, and battle items reliably sell. There are caveats within each category, and there are high-cost items in other categories, but these three are my main focuses: apparel, familiars, and battle items. I also encourage you to experiment with selling dragons. For apparel and familiars, if the item sells for less than 2,000 treasure, consider reducing it at Baldwin's Brew and then selling the reduction. Ingredients can make much more than common items. I also encourage you to experiment with selling dragons. A common concern I've heard over the years is that people don't want to see their soul dragons get exalted. While that's always a very real, high risk that can only be fully mitigated by not selling dragons, it's not the only solution. I've found that selling dragons at higher prices reduces the chance that they will immediately be exalted. If you sell your hatchlings at 5,000 treasure, it's almost guaranteed they'll be exalted. Their lifespan may be enriched by listing them instead at above 30,000 treasure. To that point, I have often flipped dragons. I go through and buy dragons in bulk, especially if they're listed under 6,000 treasure. I then list them above 15,000 treasure. Between listing and selling, I will feed them, and I haven't quantified those costs, but I've also never ran out of food before. It may take some time, but I continually relist. I've found this to be a pretty decent way to keep treasure on hand. I'm running some tests right now on the ancient market to better understand which dragons sell for the most. Since I'm trying to get the various breeding achievements, I will be hatching a lot of ancient dragons. I would like to focus on those who will make the most on the auction house. If I'm already doing it, I might as well satisfy a market demand. Alright, so that's it for this time. If you haven't watched my video describing my approach to flight rising, I strongly recommend it. I intend to make another video in the future when I reach 1,000 achievement points to discuss the odds and ends of the smaller achievements along the way. Let me know your additional insights. One thing that I didn't mention earlier is that the currency earned at Crim's collection cart also counts for the I Love Gooooold achievements. Switching gears, if you have any experiences or notes about what happened with goatlings, please let me know about that. I'm excited and interested in hearing. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you at the next one. Bye!